What new stuff will we be catching this time? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to today's Pokemon Presents. So, this might be a surprise reaction to some people, because I don't normally react to like a lot of these PlayStation Presents things and Nintendo ones and everything. But there is actually a precedence for this because I reacted to the Pokemon Day Presents from last February 27th, and I reacted to one in August of 2023 as well. And I've even reacted to all of the different Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailers when those games were coming out. And you may be wondering, okay, so why do you react specifically to the Pokemon ones? Well, Pokemon is my favorite gaming franchise, period. I have been following the series since Red and Blue were first released here in America, and I've been a fan literally my whole life. It's just something that I've always been super into. And while I've checked out other stuff like the anime and the card game and stuff, the games were always the big thing for me when it came to Pokemon. And so I'm very excited to see what kind of new announcements we got. There's a couple possibilities for what we're going to get today. Last year at the Pokemon Presents, they announced Pokemon Legends ZA, the new Legends game, sort of like Legends Arceus, that would be taking place in the Kalos region from Gen 6 and focusing on Zygarde. It's basically like our answer to why was there no Pokemon Z when we got X and Y. We're basically finally getting it, but we're getting it in the form of a Legends game. And so I'm very interested to see how this ends up going, but the problem is we've still gotten kind of no word on that. Pokemon Legends ZA still has no actual info outside of that initial trailer. And so we could possibly get more with that today. Another thing we could possibly get, especially for the big announcement at the end, because that's usually how these things always work, no matter which company or whatever is doing it. We could be getting the Gen 10 announcement, because 3 years ago, on the Pokemon Day Pokemon Presents, is when they announced Gen 9, Scarlet and Violet. They were announced via the Pokemon Presents, and they came out later that year. And the Pokemon games, the main series games, have kind of this tradition of coming out every 3 years or so. Most of the games have come out 3 years apart. It has been 3 years since Scarlet and Violet came out. So we could be getting that announcement today. But there's a possibility we might not, because next year, 2026, is the 30-year anniversary of the Pokemon games. And so it's also possible they might be pushing Gen 10 off until next year so that it releases in line with the 30th anniversary. And with the fact that we're going to be getting Legends ZA this year, that also adds a precedence to waiting. Because the Legends games are kind of main series games in their own right. They're not like your little random spin-offs and whatnot. They are like big main games. They're just not part of like the main generational series in a way. So Legends ZA, for example, would still be a part of Generation 9. It wouldn't be Gen 10 yet. Gen 10 starts with the release of the main games. So they might be waiting and pushing off Gen 10 until next year, and I think that's a very strong possibility. Um, but we'll see. There's probably also going to be announcements for like Pokemon Unite and Cafe Remix and stuff like that. We usually get announcements for those games too. I've dabbled in those games, but don't like play them super actively. Mostly because Unite is an online game, and I'm not huge into online games. But also it's like I play. I end up playing Unite like really actively for a period of time, and then I just completely fall off because I'm playing other games. I'm watching other stuff. It takes time and focus, and I feel like the rewards like aren't the rewards for playing and everything, whether the stuff you get or whatnot. It doesn't really make it as satisfying to me. But there's occasions where I'll just play a bunch of it. And Cafe Remix, I pretty much played to as far as you could get outside of like new Pokemon being added in. And it's like, I don't really think I need to play it anymore. It's one of those games I've kind of like played out at this point. But I'm still interested to see what kind of announcements we'll get. Maybe we'll get something completely different, completely new that um, I would never expect. That could be interesting too. I don't know what to think going into this, but for those wondering, we are going to be redirecting this just like we do with every reaction. Although this might be a little safer than some things we react to, I just want to be really safe when it comes to this. So there is a link in the description below. You can follow that to get to today's reaction and everything. Just letting you know for those who might be new to the channel, who might have found it through this video. Yeah, it's just for a safety thing because of how YouTube's copyright system works, or doesn't work, rather. I just want to make sure that the channel is able to stay up in its entirety. But that does mean that every reaction I post, not just this, but all show reactions, all movie reactions, are able to be seen in their entirety. It's not going to be cut up and everything. You'll get to see the entire reaction for free. So there's always that plus too. But yeah, let's get into today's reaction and see what this Pokemon Presents has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, it kind of went as I was expecting it to, with all the like little announcements and everything leading into Legends ZA. There is that new game though, Pokemon Champions or whatever it was called. It kind of reminded me of Pokemon Stadium, at least in terms of just the small amount we saw. So that's really interesting. I'm definitely curious to learn more about that. Um, but I feel like it made it come across like that game's still far out. Like it's like maybe gonna come out sometime next year. And I really wish game companies would stop doing that. Like in general, not just Pokemon, not just Nintendo. Just game companies in general. I really wish they would stop announcing games so far ahead of time. It's like don't announce a game until it's like almost finished. Like I know people like to get hyped and get excited for games early on so that it's like, oh, you can be ready for it and everything. Um and I understand like a lot of it is these companies wanting to put out multiple trailers and everything, but I feel like a game should not be announced any farther back than 1 year out of its release date. Now, if its release date is pushed back, that's one thing. But like when a game's first announced, like let's say a game is announced, let's just say today, Pokemon Day, just as an example. Um, the game should release by this same date next year. And this is a personal thing. I feel like a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but when you like announce games like years and years out, you're setting forth expectations that are either not going to be able to be met, or the games are going to end up getting stuck in development hell and have a lot of problems getting, made and released. And then there's going to be issues with like, oh, you set forth our expectations and our interests so early and nothing's ever happening with it. Games like The Elder Scrolls 6, which was announced like I think 6 years ago at this point, maybe even upwards of 7. And it's like we've got no further information on that, and honestly, we don't even know if it's still happening at this point. There was that one game. Was it Beyond Good and Evil? It was one of those older games that's like getting a new version or a new like entry in the series. It had like the monkey guy and everything, and there was like a pig guy in the trailer. These animal like characters and everything. There was a trailer that released like years and years ago. That game, like, it's probably not happening because it's been stuck in development hell and everything, and it's probably not happening at this point. And it sucks because people were super excited after that initial cinematic trailer, and their expectations were just destroyed because the company like basically assumed like way too early that everything was going to go right. When you're only a year out, it allows it's like you're far enough in development where it's like it's going to happen. So you don't have to worry about that. Honestly, I think Legends ZA was announced way too early. I think it should have. I understand them wanting to announce it for Pokemon Day, but I don't think it should have been. I think it should have been announced last fall because the game's not coming out again until this fall, presumably. It's probably going to be like somewhere between August and November. Um, but yeah, it's just who knows when this Pokemon Champions game is coming. We also know pretty much next to nothing about it. Like, it's going to be on Switch and mobile. It's focused on battles. That's all we know. Is it online only? Is it one of those games where it's like you can, like Pokemon Unite, where you have to play it like against other people online? Or is it something that does have like just a single player aspect to it? Because I prefer single player games, like by far. And Pokemon, let's be honest, has way too many like of these like online spin-off games. It's just like they need to stop. They need to stop forcing all these different online games and just focus on other stuff. But we have of course Legends ZA, and that's the big one. We have our 3 starters announced. And interestingly enough, 2 of them are Gen 2 starters. Both Chikorita and Totodile come from Gen 2. And that's really interesting because people were like guessing and trying to figure out what the stars would be because Legends Arceus took starters from other generations and brought them together while giving them new final evolutions, which I assume is going to happen here as well. I assume the final evolutions are going to be new ones. Um, so we have Chikorita and Totodile from Gen 2, and then we have Tepig from Gen 5, I believe. Gens 4 and 5 I kind of get like a little bit mixed up sometimes. I believe Chimchar is Gen 4, and Tepig is Gen 5. I believe so. Um, I'm not interested in Tepig. I never liked Tepig. So it would definitely be between Chikorita and Totodile for me, and Chikorita is one of my favorites, so I would probably end up going for that. Um, though part of it would also kind of like make me wonder. It's like, oh, but should I wait to find out like what the final evolutions are, and do I even want to know ahead of time? The thing is, if I don't know ahead of time, I get to be more surprised. But if I know ahead of time, I know what starter I want to pick. Um, so there's kind of like a double-edged sword there. And with with them being new versions of it, I'm very interested to see what they do, because there's a lot of possibilities, and what they did with the starters in Gen or in Legends Arceus was really good. Now we get a little bit more look at the gameplay and a little bit of look at characters and stuff. This is definitely taking place after Gen 6. Um, because AZ is here. He's no longer wandering the wilds. He's running a hotel with his partner, his Flabebe, which, AZ was a major character in Gen 6. And basically reuniting him with Flabebe, I believe, was like a big part of the story. So the fact that he's like still around, this, immortal giant man, that he's still around and is just kind of like vibing now is really cute, actually. um but Lumio City is being remade. It's being like reformed into like this city that is meant to like kind of facilitate humans and Pokemon living together in harmony. Which I feel like Lumio's kind of already had that vibe, but I guess they're pushing it further. And it's going to have like certain areas of the city are going to be wild areas where you can go and like uh, catch wild Pokemon and do all of that jazz. Kind of like the different areas in Legends Arceus you could go to. There are the different areas in the wilds that you could visit to find different wild Pokemon and whatnot. It's probably going to be the same basic idea, except now you're in a city. You can also like zoom up to the tops of roofs and stuff to explore up there. You have different characters. You have like this this friendly rival type character, who I guess their gender changes based on what gender you are. I would assume. Let me see if I can look through that real quick. I'm gonna mute this obviously, so we have no copyright issues. But I want to kind of go back to that to kind of see like if there's a correlation here. Okay, we see her right there, I think, with the male trainer. With the female version of her. Yeah, and we see the male version here, like sitting down and chatting with the female version of the main character. Okay, so they didn't specifically say that in the game, but Urbane and Tawny, the rival character, it is absolutely connected to your gender. So, like, when I play, I'm going to obviously play as the more feminine. Or I guess it's not really gender, because if this goes in line with Scarlet and Violet, it's going to be more like your style, because they kind of took out the gender terms for the characters, which is actually very nice. So if you choose basically a more feminine style, like I will probably choose, I'm going to have Urbane as my friend slash rival. But if I choose a more masculine style, I would have Tawny. At least that's what it's looking like. Unless there's like another way to like. Oh yeah, no. Actually, it says right here. Never mind. It says which character you meet will depend on the appearance you choose for yourself in the game. Yeah, there you go. It is just dependent on that. I didn't see that line of dial or that line of text at the top of the screen before. And you can see in this shot, like at the hotel with AZ, AZ is still massive. He looks like he lost some like muscle mass, but also it might have just been like all the coats and stuff he was wearing. before, but he is still a giant ass dude. So we see that his size is still intact there. A Floette also, by the way, not Flabebe. And then we have Quizartico Inc. This seems like they might be the main villains. At least it's possible. Never trust a company in Pokemon, you know? We have the CEO Jet, who has these, like, moon earrings and a really interesting hairstyle. I'm wondering, like, usually designs in Pokemon for characters oftentimes mean something, but I'm not sure what it could mean. She also has a secretary, Vinny, who doesn't have much going on. He has some stuff in his hair, actually. It looks like he has his hair tied back, and it's tied back with, like, some kind of balls, for lack of a better word. He also has, like, these kind of Wolverine sideburns going on. Yeah, and these wild areas, it's like there's or wild zones. They're, like, gated off almost, it looks like. And, like, it shows when the player entered Wild Zone 1, it has, like, a very specific, like, label for such. Now, the interesting thing is the Pokemon battles. Because we had kind of like the out in the wild battle system in Legends Arceus, but the Pokemon stayed pretty static. They stayed where they were. In this, you and the Pokemon can. Well, I think you could move around in Legends Arceus. But here, both you and the Pokemon can move around kind of at will, which can actually, like, dodge attacks and stuff, which is very different, very interesting. Mega Evolution is back. That's, whatever. But, like, you can switch between Pokemon very quickly at will during a battle. So that's really interesting. We see multiple forms of Zygarde during the trailer as well. So there's definitely aspects of that being part of the main story, which makes sense. We already figured that. We get a lot of different Pokemon being shown. Seems like mostly Pokemon that existed in Gen 6, which, again, makes sense. I'm not that worried about that. I'm very curious to see, like, more of this. I'm probably not going to react to any other trailers for this, though. I might change my mind. It just depends on when we get stuff. And I feel like there's going to be at least one more trailer because we have to have a trailer that's going to announce the release date. But outside of that, I don't know. I'm very interested, though. It looks good. It looks really good. I mean, Legends Arceus was fantastic. It was a genuinely great game that, like, caught a lot of people by surprise. Um, and I hope that this one follows in that. I hope it is also really good. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes and hope for the best. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what this game has in store for us. Just as a note, I won't be playing this on the gaming channel because my Switch is a Switch Lite. So I can't use it with a capture card. So unfortunately, I have no way to be able to play it on the on the gaming channel. Um, but I will probably share screenshots and stuff on, like, the Discord and stuff. I did that for Scarlet and Violet, I believe. So I'll probably share, like, screenshots of my journey and whatnot. So I might even open a specific channel on the Discord server for that. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, once more info comes out, I might talk about that on the Discord. But I don't know if I'm going to do another reaction yet. I might not. But I would love to hear your thoughts either way. Tell me what you thought of this Pokemon Presents, and what do you think of the stuff shown off today, especially the look at Legends ZA? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.